I was amazed to see the level of confidence. Our polling experts said that UKIP was surging at the expense of the Tories. All we needed was one last push. In Lincoln, a seat which we lost in 1992 but won in 1997, we had an enthusiastic rally in the campaign headquarters, a real tribute to our candidate's leadership and hard work. Of course, everyone was nervous, but I had nothing but confident expectation that we were going to win. Back in my own constituency on polling day, the mood was good. We had hundreds of people out, from first light, delivering our Remember to Vote leaflets, knocking on the doors of our supporters or phoning them from our 3 campaign hubs across the constituency. Our vote felt solid, and Joe Coles, my experienced campaign manager, was confident that we'd win with an increased majority. But we were mistaken. When the exit poll emerged, it felt like falling into a big black hole. It wasn't just that our hopes were dashed, it was that dreadful feeling that everything we thought we knew was wrong. Yvette and I immediately had to go to our counts and our pre-agreed media appearances. I thought back to that feeling in 1997, a night we'd been able to share and celebrate together, and as we went our separate ways on what was going to be a very different night in 2015, I felt a desperate wrench that we were going to go through it all apart. One of my team picked me up to drive me to the count at the Leeds Arena, where I was to do a round of television and radio interviews at 11 p.m. I'd thought it would be a good time to speak. If the result was still close, I could parry away any questions about Labour's tactics on the hung Parliament by saying the interviewers were being premature. I hadn't ever envisaged that things would be so clear right from the beginning. As we drove to the count, I texted my brilliant media advisor, Alex Ballardinelli, to ask if there was a line prepared from the campaign, something for me to say. Alex always embodied strength, calm, and common sense. So when he was agitated or annoyed, you knew it was with good reason. He said he was pressing for a line. However, Ed Miliband's team had prepared advanced interview scripts for every eventuality except the one we were now facing. We arrived at Leeds at 10:45 and checked into a Premier Inn over the road from the arena. The proposed line eventually came through from Labour headquarters: pour water on the exit poll, say we think it's wrong. They suggested pointing to YouGov's alternative poll, which had the Tories on 284 seats and the election too close to call. It was certainly a straw to clutch at, but the exit polls had been pretty spot on from 1997 onwards, and I thought it would look foolish to dismiss this one. I decided that I'd say there were a couple of polls out there that would have to wait and see which was correct, but if it was somewhere in the middle, then we were in hung Parliament territory, and David Cameron had not secured the majority he'd set out to achieve. Over at the packed arena, Tracy Paul, one of the most professional and experienced Labour operators, had already managed to befriend the security guards and secure a secret way into the main hall, avoiding the media scrum at the entrance. We were ushered down a few back corridors and onto the broadcast stage, where I proceeded to do my interviews, trying to sound as upbeat as I could. It didn't feel very convincing. Although half an hour later, Charlie Faulkner texted me from Labour HQ to say my interviews had been a huge boost. At least I'd given them a script that would get the party through the next couple of hours. At the end of my BBC interview, David Dimbleby asked me whether the rumours on Twitter were true, that I could lose my seat. That was the first I'd heard of any threat in Morley and outward. And although it was obvious from the exit poll that it was going to be a terrible night for Labour, I hadn't really computed the local implications. I was worried for the party, but not yet for myself. Nestled around the junctions of the M1 and M62 between Leeds and Wakefield, Morley and Outwood is a constituency created after the last boundary review, which came into effect for the 2010 election. A prime commuter location on the edge of Leeds, the area had seen a great deal of new house building over the previous 2 decades or more. It was demographically very different, more affluent, much more marginal, from the old mining constituency of Normanton, where I was first elected in 2005. Back in 2010, with Tory pressure mounting, the invaluable Alicia Kennedy, the Assistant General Secretary and Campaign Coordinator at Labour HQ, had told me the national campaign was worried my seat was at risk and would allocate me extra resources. The Tories fought a very aggressive and personal campaign, but we won, with a majority of just 1,101, the smallest in the Shadow Cabinet, but for me...